As someone with sensitive guts, I look at foods and I immediately start calculating, like, what's this going to do to my inside? But I'm also often very drawn to those exact same foods.
Well, that's a problem for a lot of people.
And here's something I didn't know until recently. A lot of foods that cause digestive issues contain compounds called FODMAPs, and that's where Fodzyme comes in.
Fodzyme is a tasteless powder you sprinkle right into your food, and it helps break down FODMAPs, the hard-to-digest components in food that can cause bloating, gas, and pain before they cause discomfort.
And I was making a salad the other day, and it was like half raw cabbage. So what did I do? Sprinkled a little Fodzyme on there.
It makes digestion easier, so you can eat more of what you love. Think of it like Lactaid, but for garlic and onions and wheat, beans, cheese, other common foods with FODMAPs.
Every customer gets access to a free consultation with a registered dietitian who can help you figure out how to use Fodzyme with your specific trigger foods.
We're excited to partner with Fodzyme and offer you 30% off your first order when you go to icaneatagain.com/oddities.
That's icaneatagain.com/oddities for 30% off your first order.
Finally, you can enjoy your favorite foods without the pain. Just go to icaneatagain.com/oddities.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
The Box of Oddities.
And now it's time for another segment of what I like to call stupid crap I'm finding on Marketplace. Some people, they have this unrealistic view of the junk that they're selling, and I find it extremely amusing. My latest entry is this one. Rare vintage Kindle Fire. It's the first edition. It's not like it's a rookie card in baseball.
Yeah.
It's just an old piece of junk from 15 years ago. Nobody wants that, but it's rare. It's vintage. Stop throwing the word vintage around so much.
Oh my gosh.
I have vintage underpants. I'm not going to sell them.
But they're rare.
Yeah, they sure are. It's incredible to me. I find so much enjoyment in this because it keeps me off of social media and news sites.
I feel, though, like you enjoy it at the same time you also struggle emotionally with it. So you'll just stand up and start pacing and being like, what would make you think you could get $500 for this?
That's very true. For some reason, people think that just because it's an old vinyl album, it's ridiculously valuable.
That is something that we've discovered. I mean, because we're always trolling for old vinyl. And I think that if you're not part of that world, it's easy to think, well, I've never seen this before. Mm-hmm. So this small record must be very valuable.
Right. The 45s,
Right.
they come up all the time.
Rare
vintage 45. And it's just like we say in radio, it was a stiff. Nobody remembers that song at all. It's not worth $125.
Well, they don't even call them 45s. I saw one not long ago refer to it as tiny record.
Yeah. I saw an ad for somebody had an old Beach Boys album, and it was like Endless Summer, the double album from mid-70s, something like that.
You know how I feel about the Beach Boys. Not interested.
They wanted $275 for it.
Wow. Had it been signed by John Stamos?
No, way before John Stamos' time. It was just an old scratched up version of Endless Summer. All right. There was a time when the Mississippi River was one of the most dangerous places in America. It still is dangerous, but 150, 200 years ago, oh my God. Long before the levees, radar, modern navigation, the river was a shifting wilderness. Entire stretches disappeared beneath fog and sometimes so thick that the pilot of the steamship couldn't see beyond the bow of his own boat. A massive Cypress trees lined the banks, the ones with like Spanish moss dripping off I love those. It certainly creates an atmospheric image. The river itself was unpredictable. Sandbars appeared where none had existed the day before. Hidden snags waited just beneath the surface. Steamboats had a habit of exploding because of the boilers. They collided, they burned, they vanished. Floods swallowed farms and towns.
Mel Gibson's always showing up.
All the time with the Mel Gibson. And sometimes entire cemeteries got flooded. And because death was never very far away, neither were the stories. River pilots spoke of phantom steamboats emerging from the fog. And deckhands, for decades, traded tales of ghostly lights drifting above the water. And some swore they heard voices calling from the darkness where no boat should have been.
Sandbar sirens.
Most of these stories were probably just stories. But every now and then, the Mississippi produced something that required no embellishment at all, something that was real, something that drifted silently in the current. A coffin, or several coffins.
Oof.
The coffins would appear in the fog, drifting silently down the Mississippi. There would be no boat nearby, no immediate explanation, just this dark rectangular shape moving with the current until it disappeared again into the mist. And some rivermen called it a bad omen. It happened a lot. Others treated it as a warning.
I don't think that there's many people who wouldn't see it as one of those two things.
Especially back then.
Floaty coffin? No, thank you.
Throughout the 19th century, the Mississippi River carried plenty of real reminders of death, and people working on the river saw them regularly. And when we talk about floating coffins on the Mississippi, we're not talking about a strange event. There were many incidents like this. The Mississippi was America's great water highway, and steamboats moved passengers, cargo, livestock, cotton, timber, and mail through thousands of miles of waterways.
I never even thought that mail might have been delivered via steamboat.
It was a big deal.
Oh, look at me learning.
And the river, especially in those days, could be very unforgiving. Floods arrived with little concern for the communities built along the banks. River channels shifted. Entire sections of shoreline disappeared. And when the water rose high enough, cemeteries sometimes became flooded. Quite often, in fact. 19th-century newspapers regularly reported graves being exposed after floods. Riverbanks would collapse, burial grounds would be washed away, coffins emerged from the soil and entered the current, sometimes dozens at a time. Some were recovered, many were not. And it wasn't just then that type of thing happened. It happened during Katrina.
Of course. That was traumatizing for an entire generation of people.
It sure was. But back then, for the people who worked on the river, these newspaper reports were something tangible. A deckhand, he'd be standing on the deck, scanning the water after a flood, just looking for obstacles, maybe driftwood or whatever. A ferryman might discover a casket lodged on a sandbar. A farmer along the riverbank might wake up one morning to find a coffin in his cornfield after the floodwaters receded. And these were not just stories. They were actual recovery operations.
Now, when do we decide we should stop burying people along the banks of the Mississippi?
Once a cemetery was totally washed away, or most of it, people would move it inland. But It was not a priority for some reason. They would just oftentimes take them back to where they were flushed out and get them all dug in again.
Oof.
And this happened often enough that local communities organized efforts to retrieve and rebury the displaced dead. And cemeteries were only one source of floating bodies. The Mississippi also collected victims from the disasters that occurred upon it. And steamboat travel in the 19th century was remarkably dangerous because of the boilers. More than anything, they would explode and fires would spread throughout the wooden vessels. Boats would strike snags hidden beneath the surface. Collisions would happen in the dark or in the fog. Hundreds of accidents were recorded throughout the century, and when a disaster occurred, the river often became part of the aftermath. Bodies were carried downstream. Wreckage drifted for miles. Recovery crews searched shorelines and riverbanks looking for victims. Looking back at some of the old newspaper articles, newspapers would regularly publish reports describing remains being discovered even weeks after incidents and accidents. And doing a little digging, one of the most tragic examples occurred in 1837. It was the sinking of the steamboat Monmouth. The vessel was transporting Muskogee people during their forced removal from their homeland, part of the Trail of Tears. After striking a snag in the river, the boat sank. More than 300 Muskogee passengers died, and contemporary accounts describe bodies and wreckage scattered for miles by the current. And the Monmouth wasn't unique. Again and again, the Mississippi became both the scene of disaster and also the mechanism by which the evidence of that disaster was scattered about. For river workers, these events were impossible to ignore.
Yeah, bodies will do that. Tough to ignore human remains.
Floating corpses. And so, of course, ghost stories would build up around these situations, and how could they not? For river workers, these events were impossible to ignore. You know, you spend years on the water in many cases. You read reports about cemeteries damaged by floods. You hear about a steamboat sinking upriver. A week later, somebody discovers wreckage caught in the roots of a tree, and several days after that, bodies are recovered along the shoreline. And then months later, another flood dislodges a cemetery and sends caskets drifting down the river. And so patterns begin to form, and the mind starts connecting the events. How could it not? Stories begin filling the spaces in between the facts, and that's how this type of ghost story or folklore develops. They didn't just make it up. It was the repetition of these events.
Sure.
Their way of dealing with it, I guess. And the Mississippi offered endless opportunities for repetition because the river was filled with sights that were unusual but entirely real. You'd see a coffin stranded on a sandbar, a burial vault exposed by erosion, wreckage floating through the fog, personal belongings recovered miles from where they were lost. To people far from the river, such reports sounded extraordinary. But to people who lived beside it, it was just part of everyday life.
That's so creepy.
And over time, these experiences start blending together, and stories about flood-damaged cemeteries mixed with stories about steamboat disasters, and accounts of recovered caskets merged with tales of phantom boats and ghosts floating over the water. And again, those reports of bodies drifting downstream became intertwined with bad omens or warnings or superstitions. And the result was a body of stories in which a floating coffin became more than just a displaced body or object. It was a symbol. And many communities believed seeing one foretold bad luck. Others warned it as an approaching disaster.
Honestly, I feel like encountering a human body or the remains of some sort of disaster is on its own pretty bad luck.
But many claimed it appeared before a death. People believed these things, and it's easy to understand that. The river had taught generations of workers a simple lesson. Sometimes terrible things come floating downstream.
Yeah.
Somebody who spent enough time on the Mississippi eventually learned that the next bend in the river could reveal anything. And unlike many ghost stories, the floating coffins of the Mississippi did not require people to believe in the impossible. The river itself supplied the evidence. 19th-century newspapers documented these flood-damaged cemeteries and steamboat disasters. Every one of the reports was real, and every one of the reports added another layer to the legend. Somewhere along the way, the image of a lone coffin drifting through the fog on the Mississippi became one of the river's most enduring legends, because it happened just enough that nobody could completely dismiss it.
Not to be confused with endearing.
Well, it's a little endearing. And what's really interesting to me is, and I believe we did an episode on this. If not, I'll do one. But I remember seeing a documentary about a steamboat that had sunk and was buried in the mud for 150 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. It went down with goods and merchandise like brand new china and things that they were able to recover, crates of materials that survived. The interesting thing was that where they found it was in a guy's cornfield a long, long way from where the river is today. Mm. My sources: Steamboat, Monmouth Disaster, Historical Records and Contemporary Accounts, and Historical Documentation and Newspaper Coverage of Mississippi River floodings, cemetery displacement events, and the 19th century steamboat culture.
Wow.
So fuck off. That's all I've got.
It's really interesting, though, because then you think about what assumptions that we make about where we might find archaeological artifacts. Mm-hmm. Archaeological artifacts sounds like too much that's coming out of my mouth. Archaeological artifact. Where you might find artifacts. And the banks of a river, yeah, of course you'd think you might find neat stuff there. But 2 miles away from the banks of a river in a cornfield?
Yeah.
I wouldn't assume I would find river goods.
And there was a way that they pinpointed this, and I'm going to dig into it. We'll talk a little bit more about it. It's just plain fascinating.
When I was in middle school, I wanted to fit in with the cool kids. And one day they were making fun of this girl because she was wearing stirrup pants, and I got in on it. And I was like, stirrup pants. We ended up becoming friends. It wasn't a big deal. But I still think about that, especially when I'm trying to sleep. It's like 2 a.m. and I'm like, remember that time you were mean in 7th grade?
I do that all the time. Those thoughts can spiral out of control and cause insomnia. And as a person that suffers from that, I'm loving the products that we get from Tanasi. Calm, relax, easing of your anxiety, relief. It soothes and relieves aches and pains. You'll get rest, better sleep. And all Tanasi products are THC free and contain a patented CBD plus CBDA formula. Makes it 2 times better than CBD alone and better than over-the-counter drugs like acetaminophen when it comes to supporting your body's response to inflammation.
Their soft gels are especially popular because they're an easy addition to your daily routine, and their gummies are a great option if you're new to CBD.
They have tinctures, too. Satisfaction guaranteed. Give Tanasi products a try, and if you don't love them, you'll receive a full refund.
Go to Tanasi.com and use promo code ODDITIES to get 25% off at checkout.
That's TANASI.com to get 25% off your first order with promo code ODDITIES. Hey, we got this email. Kat and Jethro, just a quick thank you. I heard you mention quince on your show a while back and decided to order a few things for my mom for Mother's Day. Aww. She absolutely loved them and has already asked me where I found the brand. So thanks for accidentally making me look much more of a thoughtful daughter than I probably am. And yeah, we love quince. I'm wearing my quince shorts right now.
And making our way into summer, those shorts are going to be an essential for you.
Quince has beautiful everyday pieces like 100% European linen pants, dresses, and tops with styles starting at $32.
And the really important thing for us is Quince works directly with ethical factories. So you're paying for quality, not for a brand name.
And everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than similar products.
I have a set of Quince linen pillowcases on my bed right now. Mm-hmm. Oh, it makes me feel like such a fancy lady.
It's time for a new summer wardrobe. Elevate your wardrobe. Go to quince.com/oddities for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns.
Now available in Canada, too. Woo. That's QUINCE.com/oddities for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/oddities.
And now, that thing in the middle.
In the past, we've talked about slang from the 1920s. I think you did a topic on that. Very interesting stuff, like where did the bee's knees come from?
I went through like a 2-year phase where I was obsessed.
But I thought we'd go back a little further for slang from the 1800s. And I sent you a list. You'll have to scroll down a little bit to get past 1920 stuff that we've already covered. Number 5, dead hooved. It means exhausted. I've been working all day. I'm dead hooved.
Mutton shunter.
That makes me laugh.
It means a police officer. Look sharp, boys. We got a mutton shunter on the case.
Number 3, a whooper up. That's from the late 1800s. It means a loud, obnoxious person. Basically the 19th century version of that guy.
This is something that I have crafted on many an occasion. A slumgullion. This is a cheap stew made from whatever happened to be available at the time.
They called it a slumgullion. You call it a pile.
Yeah.
And number 1, snollygoster. That is a dishonest politician.
Is there another kind?
Using it in a sentence would be, our country is being run by snollygosters.
Please help.
Here's a bonus one. Womblecropped. That means indigestion.
I love feeling like I'm connected to someone from the 1800s in that way. Oh, you've had fire throat too? Cool.
The snollygoster has given me womblecropped.
If you've ever blasted synth beats from your boombox or burned CDs for your besties, this one's for you. As people get older, much like their music tastes, their health needs change. AG1 is the simple daily health drink designed to deliver over 75 essential daily nutrients and pre- and probiotics to support energy, digestion, and mood. So you can make the most out of every decade and dance break. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
100% of our listeners surveyed say they listen to podcasts. That's a lot. This is the Box of Oddities.
What you got for me?
So I'm watching The Blacklist, and someone on the show has been sentenced to a fairly short probation for killing a guy. And I thought, well, that's unlikely, before catching and reminding myself that no, every day it seems I see a sentence handed down that in no way suits the crime. So I spent some time looking into that, and holy sweet potatoes, that was depressing. So I decided we'd go the other way.
Okay.
On June 28, 1903.
During the time of snollygosters.
That's right. Charles Foussard. Full name, Charles Lucas Edmund Kindell City Foussard. Get a hold of yourselves, guys. Outrageous. Anyway, he entered the home of an elderly farmer, William Thomas Ford, in the rural community of Skye in Australia. He shot Ford 5 times with a pea rifle and then stole the man's boots. After the killing, he fled into the bush. The theft of the boots actually turned out to be his undoing. Police, assisted by Aboriginal trackers, eventually located him, and he was still wearing the distinctive boots taken from Ford. After his arrest, he told police that he'd also murdered a man named Sultan Alem near Miners Rest, Victoria. He later recanted parts of that confession, but investigators noted that he did demonstrate detailed knowledge of the crime scene. Whether he was truly responsible remains uncertain. He was captured, declared mentally unfit to stand trial, and committed to an institution at the governor's pleasure. He would never leave. Foussard remained confined for more than 71 years, dying in custody in 1974.
At the governor's pleasure. That's an odd phrase in this situation. Governor's like, okay, let's put him away in a mental institution. God, I'm really enjoying this. This is great. I'm feeling pleasured.
I think in this circumstance, pleasure means more of discretion. Glad we clarified. So this guy entered confinement before airplanes became common and was still there after astronauts had walked on the moon.
Holy crap.
He served the longest time in prison that I could find anyway. but he died in custody. So let's take a look at Joe Ligon. Ligon was convicted in connection with a series of assaults and robberies that resulted in 2 deaths. He received a mandatory life without parole sentence as a juvenile. After U.S. Supreme Court rulings found mandatory juvenile life without parole sentences unconstitutional, his sentence was vacated and he was released. He entered prison in 1953, and he was released in 2021.
Oh, my God.
He was imprisoned at the age of 15, 83 when he was released.
Can you imagine the culture shock
No.
he must have experienced? He walks out on the street and everybody's looking at their phones, and he's still thinking with a 1953 brain.
Right. Just carving "Red was here" into the beam. So while the people I've already mentioned actually spent decades behind bars, some judges have handed down sentences so long they would require several lifetimes to complete. In 1991, a judge handed out a prison term of 505 years to 4 men convicted of involvement in a money laundering ring in LA. So why do judges sentence people to hundreds or even thousands of years in prison when no one could possibly serve that much time? Well, there's a few reasons. First, there's a maximum condemnation. A sentence can serve as a public statement about the seriousness of the crime. This is especially common in cases involving serial murder, terrorism, or repeated sexual abuse of children. The size of the sentence is to reflect society's judgment on the conduct.
Yeah, because oftentimes you will hear somebody gets a life sentence, but then tacked onto that will be with the possibility of parole. Mm-hmm. It's not really a lifetime sentence if there's the possibility you can get out. It's a maybe lifetime sentence at my pleasure.
That's an interesting point that we're going to get to. Second, there's insurance against future appeals. If the defendant is convicted on dozens or hundreds of counts, some of those convictions may later be overturned. And by stacking the sentences consecutively, courts help ensure that even if some counts disappear, the offender remains incarcerated for life. Third, there's the recognition of individual victims. In crimes involving multiple victims, judges often want each victim represented by a separate sentence. Otherwise, concurrent sentences can create the perception that additional crimes carried no additional punishment.
Yeah, I've always felt that way.
I agree.
You're getting 2 15-year sentences to be served concurrently.
Then that's just 15 years.
15 years.
When that happens, victims' advocates often refer to that as free crimes. And then finally, there's the mathematics of parole. In jurisdictions where parole is available, an extraordinarily long sentence can make release effectively impossible. A 1,000-year sentence with parole eligibility after serving 25% of the term would technically allow parole consideration after 250 years.
Yeah. If you're 282 years old, maybe I would consider letting you out. Maybe. Depending upon the crime. If you abuse children, nope.
So with that in mind, let's take a look at some prison sentences, terms that extend far beyond what we would consider a person's average lifetime. Australia's Martin Bryant received 35 life sentences, plus more than 1,000 additional years after the 1996 Port Arthur massacre. But some countries have laws that seem counterproductive. A lot of countries either cap the maximum time a person can actually serve, regardless of the sentence imposed, or allow life sentences but require review after a certain number of years. Countries like this traditionally reject the idea of locking someone up until death as a matter of principle. Portugal, for example, the maximum sentence generally is 25 years. Portugal abolished true life imprisonment in the 19th century and considers lifelong imprisonment inconsistent with human rights principles. In Norway, ordinary maximum sentence, 21 years, although dangerous offenders can be held for longer through renewable preventive detention. In Croatia, there's no life sentence, and maximum determinate terms are generally 40 to 50 years. In Bosnia, historically, sentences are capped at 45 years. So a Spanish fraudster named Gabriel Mac Granados was sentenced to more than 30,000 years for a massive financial crime involving thousands of victims. Spanish law, however, limited the actual time that could be served. So the sentence of 30,000 years is more like an idea. Like we feel 30,000 years about what you did.
That's what my heart tells me.
Right. But you're not actually going to serve that at all, even close. Closer to 14 years, actually.
Wow.
So
that's a big difference.
It really is. In 1989, a Thai court sentenced Chimoy Thipiaso to 141,078 years in prison for operating a massive pyramid scheme that defrauded thousands of investors.
You know, financial fraud seems to get some of the most strict sentences I've noticed. I imagine there are a lot of snollygosters that...
I think often with financial crimes, we see that there are many victims.
Right.
Whereas with other crimes, there are fewer. So I think that's why the sentencing so often looks so different. In the case of Chimoy Thipiaso, Thai law capped the amount of time that could actually be served. She ended up serving less than 10 years.
Wow.
Of her 141,000-year sentence.
Oh, my God.
Federal courts in the U.S., on the other hand, frequently hand down multiple life sentences. Charles Scott Robinson, an Oklahoma man who received 30 consecutive sentences totaling 5,000 years for convictions involving child sex abuse.
Yeah.
His sentence was actually later increased to 11,250 years.
Excellent.
Right? The U.S. actually features the longest average sentences for major crimes globally. It allows consecutive terms resulting in hundreds or thousands of years and holds roughly 83% of the world's life without parole population. Robert Hansen, the FBI agent who spied for Russia, received 15 consecutive life sentences. Terry Nichols received 161 consecutive life sentences.
He was the co-conspirator on the Oklahoma City bombing, right?
That's exactly right. And Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who is serving life without parole for the Boston Marathon bombing. Many countries in Europe either prohibit life without parole outright or require periodic review. A person serving life in Germany, France, or Italy will generally have some opportunity for a review, even if release is unlikely. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom employs whole life orders for the most severe offenses, legally ensuring that the prisoner will never be released. I like that one.
That's a good
one. It's like,
one.
until you die, motherfucker. That's it. So when I started Googling longest sentences ever imposed, I didn't realize in how many directions this was going to go. And I think that the interesting thing is that if you are looking for the longest sentences ever named, the numbers stop making sense pretty quickly.
Sure, yeah.
Few hundred years, few thousand years, tens of thousands of years. At that point, the sentence isn't really about time anymore. It's about symbolism. It's a way for courts to acknowledge every victim, every crime, every life affected. And it's a way of saying, even if a human lifespan isn't long enough to serve the sentence, the harm caused was too great to be measured in ordinary years. And I like that. I respect the countries that have their rules that limit sentencing with the idea that it might be like some sort of human rights violation. And I think it's always important that we examine how we work as a society.
Of course.
And examine and make sure that we are not violating human rights. But I also really like that the U.S. is like, no, forever.
Forever.
And ever. The end.
I just thought of a great idea for an old Twilight Zone episode. A guy gets convicted of some kind of heinous crime, and he gets one of those sentences, but he's truly innocent. He had nothing to do with it. And so they give him a 500-year sentence. And somehow, because he's innocent, he lives long enough to get out.
Oh, wow.
And everybody around him dies, and the jail becomes rubble, and he just kind of wanders out, still the same age that he was 500 years in the future.
This is very creative, sweetheart.
Thank you.
I want the manuscript on my desk tomorrow. I got my information from trove.nla.gov.au, mike-history.com, penal reform, L&L Law Group, and of course, Wikipedia.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you to those who have taken time to subscribe and leave a positive comment and a positive rating.
We really appreciate your help. It helps grow the show. It helps us keep doing this thing.
TheBoxOfOddities.com. We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep flying that freak flag.
Fly it proudly, you beautiful freak.
And so, let it be known that the Box of Oddities belongs to you, and its fate is in your hands. We wish to offer our deeply felt gratitude and appreciation for your patronage. TheBoxOfOddities.com. Copyright 2026, all rights reserved.
Are we recording? I just had this weird feeling that we weren't recording. Okay, good.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.